Chosen one. There's a reason the wind doesn't knock you over like it does everyone else. You were built with internal gravity. A quiet pull from something far beyond what eyes can measure. Being chosen isn't a compliment. It's a weight. A blueprint etched into your bones before the world gave you a name. And while others search for purpose like it's something they might find in a book or a stranger's validation, you've always known your path wasn't random, it was pre-carved. Not by chance, but by cosmic assignment. The power inside you isn't decoration. It's instruction. Not to impress, but to transform. And those miracles that follow you? They aren't luck. They're trail markers, confirming what your spirit already knows. You're being guided, not pushed. Selected, not shuffled. Orchestrated, not overlooked. Some people navigate life by reacting to the obvious. But what flows through you isn't born from sight, it's born from resonance. There's a certain stillness in your core that decodes what others overlook. You don't need loud signs or clear skies to understand a moment. You recognize the pulse underneath events, the way the atmosphere tenses before a lie is told, or how silence holds more answers than noise ever could. This isn't about foresight or prediction. It's a knowing that arrives without announcement, a truth that walks in quietly and sits beside you like it's always belonged. While others chase facts like scattered puzzle pieces, you move with an inner map that's already traced the full picture. Situations untangle themselves in your mind long before they collapse in real time. Words carry weight you can feel. Smiles hide discomfort you catch instantly. People think you're lucky for always being right. But luck has nothing to do with it. Your perception is sharpened by something that doesn't need validation, it simply is. The weight of choices often crushes those around you. Yet when decisions get tangled in confusion, you move like someone who's already seen the ending. That's because your sense of direction isn't driven by logic alone, it's sculpted by spiritual calibration. Your compass doesn't just point north. It points true. Even when morality becomes muddy and every side looks justified, you hear the whisper of alignment before the noise finishes speaking. And somehow, the fog parts for you. This power doesn't just help you survive, it makes you a lighthouse in emotional storms. It allows you to comfort without asking questions, to guide without imposing control. Whether you're confronting deception or walking through subtle chaos, you act not from impulse but from clarity that doesn't belong to this world. And that clarity is never loud, it arrives like breath against glass, quiet but undeniable. In practical terms, this means you lead differently. You listen longer. You speak less, but every word lands with purpose. You recognize timing most miss, and you hold space others don't know how to hold. It's not a skill you learned, it's a fire you were born with. And while many fear the unseen, you walk into it like someone returning to familiar ground. This gift isn't just about insight. It's about responsibility. You were given this vision to lift, to correct, to awaken. It's not meant to isolate you, it's meant to position you. Not above, but ahead. You're not better than others, you're built for something heavier. And when used with humility, this power becomes more than perception. It becomes transformation for you and for every life that crosses your path. Creation, in your hands, isn't about fabricating something from nothing, it's about pulling the unseen into the visible. Where others wait for permission, you carve portals with your bare intention. It's not talent. It's transmission. A frequency only you seem tuned to, guiding your hands and heart into the unknown, not to explore, but to build. When an idea arrives, it doesn't knock. It erupts. And somehow, you always know what to do with it. You don't follow trends, you birth them, often before the world knows it needs them. Whether you're crafting experiences, solving dilemmas, or birthing entire systems from the ground up, your work always carries something extra. It's not just functional, it's alive. Others might replicate, improve, or decorate, but you originate. And the odd part? It rarely feels like work. It feels like remembering something you've never seen before. And that's the mark. That's how you know it's not just you working, it's something divine working through you. You don't invent for applause. You don't build for credit. What flows through your creations is a kind of oxygen, the kind that makes people breathe differently when they interact with it. What you make sparks others into motion. You become a catalyst, not because you try, but because you can't help it. Ideas follow you around like shadows. Concepts wait in line to be birthed through your voice, your vision, your labor. And no, this isn't random. It's a sacred partnership between inspiration and obedience. Between the impulse to dream and the discipline to complete. Your output isn't just product, it's prophecy in motion. A quiet announcement to the universe that progress is happening through you. Every design, every solution, every conversation seeded with purpose carries vibrations far beyond the moment of its creation. The ripple isn't accidental. It's intentional. What others call creativity, in you is something different. It's precision. It's knowing where the missing piece belongs before anyone notices there was a gap. It's walking into disorder and somehow exiting with structure. It's decoding needs without language and constructing bridges where there were once only cliffs. There's intelligence in your spirit that has nothing to do with intellect, and yet, it solves problems academia can't touch. This ability isn't meant to stay confined. It's meant to reform landscapes. To pull potential out of hiding and place it into people's hands. Every time you act on it, you set off a chain reaction of restoration, healing, motion, purpose. So create boldly. Create vulnerably. Let what lives in you take form in the world. Because your creations aren't just things, they're awakenings. And the world's been asleep long enough. This isn't the kind of strength that flexes or performs. It doesn't scream. It endures. When the floor disappears, it builds scaffolding in midair. When the sky closes in, it finds breath where none should exist. Resilience in you isn't about holding it together, it's about becoming something stronger after everything falls apart. You don't just weather storms, you extract blueprints from them and use the chaos as raw material for your next becoming. No one sees the moments you could have disappeared, the nights you didn't cry because you were numb, the mornings you rose not with hope but with obligation. And yet, you moved. Not because it was easy, but because something in you wouldn't allow collapse to be the end of your story. You aren't just here by chance, you stayed by choice. That quiet decision, again and again, to keep showing up even when no one was watching, that's the foundation of what makes you indestructible. This isn't about pretending to be okay. It's about becoming so familiar with breaking points that they stop threatening you. Pain doesn't push you off course, it sharpens your direction. Disappointment doesn't shrink you, it becomes the soil where new conviction grows. Your scars don't humiliate you, they whisper reminders of everything you've overcome, and why you'll never fold under pressure that once would have crushed you. Others search for shortcuts to peace. You carry it inside, even when surrounded by war. Not because you're numb, but because you've discovered the stillness underneath chaos. That's what makes your presence different. People feel safer near you, not because you offer answers, but because your endurance radiates permission to keep going. You don't tell them how to survive. You show them, just by breathing. What you've endured would have rewritten the story for most. But you didn't just endure, you evolved. You didn't just make it through, you turned ruins into rhythm. This resilience isn't some accidental toughness. It's spiritual architecture. An inner structure that's been tested by every kind of erosion and still stands, not identical, but more whole. That is the miracle. Not just surviving what came for you, but carrying wisdom from it. So let resilience speak through your silence, your steps, your rebuilding. Let it live in how you listen, how you lead, how you heal. Don't downplay the force it took to become this version of you. You don't need to prove your strength. You are the proof. And the way you keep rising? That's the message others didn't even know they were waiting to receive. There's a quiet force inside you that doesn't demand attention, yet it rearranges reality. It's not about charisma or charm. It's something more rooted, more permanent. Every time you make a decision grounded in truth, it plants something in the world, something that grows even after you've moved on. The way you choose alignment over applause, depth over image, responsibility over comfort, it speaks louder than slogans. You don't try to lead. You just do, by being the standard others didn't know they were allowed to rise to. This ripple effect you carry doesn't ask for permission. It simply expands. Whether in professional spaces or intimate relationships, you recalibrate dynamics without effort. While others chase influence through noise, yours comes through clarity. It refines, reorders, reawakens. You're the kind of presence that sparks people into thinking deeper, working kinder, or questioning what they once accepted. Change doesn't follow your path. It starts there. What you activate in others is subtle, but irreversible. You speak into spaces that had gone silent, and people remember how to feel again. Whether through a boundary you set, a standard you uphold, or a truth you refuse to abandon, your way of existing tells others it's possible to live this way. And they believe you. Because you live it, without needing applause for proof. When tension rises, you're the one who restores rhythm. When confusion floods a room, you're the steady pulse that makes others remember who they are. You unite without force, gather without noise, and lead without declaring it. You're the invisible hinge holding things together when everything threatens to split apart. Not because you're trying to fix people, but because your alignment with purpose magnetizes coherence. This isn't about having a spotlight, it's about being a signal. What you carry is not hype. It's healing. It's not about being followed, it's about being felt. You embody what others didn't know they were starving for: integrity, awareness, and permission to rise. You don't sell ideals. You live them. And in doing so, you create space for others to remember their own light. This isn't sentimental love. It doesn't melt at compliments or disappear in tension. This kind of love builds. It confronts pain with patience. It listens past anger. It stays after the applause ends. What radiates from you isn't attachment, it's restoration. You don't just love people for who they are, you love them through who they are, all the way into who they're becoming. That's not a gesture. It's a vow you make with your spirit. You don't wait for people to earn kindness. You deliver it like water in a drought, without conditions, without measurement. Even when people are difficult. Even when their brokenness lashes out. You don't take offense first, you look deeper, sensing the wound under the reaction. And in doing so, you create a space that makes others feel safe to be real, raw, and slowly whole. In divided spaces, your love does the heavy lifting. It doesn't scream unity, it creates it. Not by force, but by showing what's possible when someone chooses compassion over retaliation, presence over ego. Whether you're diffusing conflict, showing up when it's inconvenient, or holding silence for someone who doesn't know how to speak, your love translates. It becomes the language no one knew they needed until you spoke it. This isn't weak. It costs you. Often, it asks you to carry weight others won't even acknowledge. But you do it anyway. Not for credit, but because your soul remembers something the world forgot, that we belong to each other. That love isn't just about feeling, it's about showing up, again and again, even when it stretches you thin. Every act of selfless love you offer is an echo of a larger story. And every time you give without expecting a return, you expand that story. You make it harder for hatred to thrive, harder for division to hold, harder for coldness to win. Your love unarms people without demanding surrender. It frees them. And in that freedom, healing begins, deep, silent, eternal. Treat this power with care, but don't hide it. It's the rarest kind of fire, the kind that warms without burning. In a time when so many are starving for real connection, you've become proof that love doesn't run out when shared, it multiplies. Through you, love becomes legacy. Not a fleeting emotion, but a force that leaves the world gentler than it found it. The powers that pulse within you, perception, invention, endurance, reach, restoration, defiance, and unconditional care, aren't just traits. They're sacred codes embedded in your spirit. Each one operates like a facet of something ancient and eternal, and when woven together, they create the architecture for a life that's not just successful, but significant. These aren't borrowed skills. They are your spiritual blueprint. Not tools to wield, but truths to embody. Clarity gives you eyes others haven't developed. Your perception doesn't skim the surface, it tunnels deep into the unseen, decoding meaning where others only register noise. Creation flows from that clarity, allowing you to craft what doesn't yet exist. And when life shakes you, you don't just brace, you build. You become stronger with every fracture, not because pain doesn't touch you, but because purpose never lets you stay down. Your presence shifts dynamics long before your voice enters the room. The way you hold space, make decisions, offer kindness, or set a boundary, these become roadmaps for others. You don't demand change. You evoke it. And in the moments when healing is needed most, you become the stillness that makes people feel safe enough to open again. Where there's fracture, you offer alignment, not by force, but by frequency. Courage doesn't always roar through you. Sometimes it whispers, "Go anyway." And you do. Whether facing injustice, loss, risk, or internal battle, you step forward, not because fear isn't present, but because truth is louder. And then there's love, the kind that holds without question, forgives without transaction, and gives without scoreboard. This is your foundation. The power that wraps all the others in meaning. So ask yourself, how will you grow these powers beyond concept? How will you root them into how you move, speak, decide, and live? These aren't decorations for your ego, they're activations for your mission. The more you live from them, the more the world shifts with you. What once felt like a burden now becomes your badge. What once felt like too much becomes your minimum. This journey isn't about spotlight, it's about alignment. Not about being followed, but about being felt. Your story holds keys. Share it not to be known, but to unlock something sacred in others. Let the way you walk become a guidepost. Let your evolution become someone else's permission slip. You're not background to someone else's narrative, you're the pulse of a divine movement. And your life, lived fully in power, becomes the proof that heaven left instructions inside a human frame. Your influence isn't accidental. It's sacred. It wasn't handed to you, it was earned through the choices no one saw and the consistency you maintained when it would have been easier to fold. So carry it consciously. Use it wisely. Let it keep awakening others, not by telling them what to do, but by showing them what's possible when purpose becomes the lifestyle, not the goal. Healing flows from you in ways that can't be taught. It's not a technique or performance, it's a frequency. It's in the way you hold space when others fall apart, without judgment, without hurry. Pain softens in your atmosphere. Anger forgets its reason. Your compassion doesn't try to fix people, it invites them to breathe again. And in that breath, the wound begins to loosen its grip. People don't come to you for solutions, they come for peace. For that moment where they don't have to defend their sorrow or explain their silence. You translate the ache beneath their words. You hear what they haven't said yet. And you respond, not with answers, but with something far more rare, safety. That's the miracle. Not the resolution, but the restoration of dignity. You've stood at the center of conflict and refused to throw stones. You've chosen to listen when silence felt safer. You've walked into rooms thick with tension and somehow brought rhythm back to fractured energy. That's not accidental. It's the echo of something divine pulsing through your empathy. You don't neutralize chaos by force, you absorb it, transform it, and send it back as stillness. Whether in crisis or daily life, your healing isn't loud. It's layered into how you respond, how you touch, how you see. When others walk away from pain, you step closer. Not to save, but to witness. And that simple act of not turning away is what begins to rebuild broken things. You don't need titles or rituals. You are the ritual. You are the moment something heavy starts to lift. The healing you offer reaches deeper than emotion. It reconnects people to parts of themselves they thought were lost. It bridges silence where words have failed. In workplaces, homes, or divided communities, you don't push for change, you invite harmony. Your energy speaks before your mouth does. And people remember how they felt around you long after they forget what was said. This gift isn't for decoration, it's for impact. Every scar you've earned has taught you how to read pain like a second language. And now, you walk with keys to doors others can't even see. So don't underestimate this calling. It's not about bandages, it's about resurrection. Every time you show up in love, in softness, in presence, something shifts. Something mends. Something returns to life. Courage, in your world, isn't about public glory. It's about private defiance. It's the invisible backbone that holds you upright when everything around you says bow. It's what pushes you to take steps no one understands, to speak when your voice shakes, and to act when the cost is steep. This fire doesn't burn recklessly, it burns with purpose. You're not leaping without thought, you're moving with sacred intention. Not to impress, but to obey an inner call that won't be ignored. When faced with injustice, you don't flinch. You feel the tremble, but you move anyway. When lies echo louder than truth, your stance becomes the quiet protest that disrupts the noise. And whether you're confronting systems or your own inner fear, the root remains the same. You are choosing alignment over acceptance. Even when the room grows cold. Even when you stand alone. Your courage doesn't always wear armor. Sometimes it wears patience. Sometimes it shows up as the decision to walk away without retaliation. To end a cycle that's been passed down like inheritance. To choose dignity instead of revenge. That takes more strength than most people ever recognize. But you don't need their recognition. You were never doing it for that anyway. You don't follow the safest path. You carve a higher one. You risk misunderstanding, failure, discomfort, and yet still proceed. That's because comfort isn't your goal. Transformation is. And every time you choose to challenge the familiar, you invite the sacred into motion. Your journey isn't loud, but it's seismic. You shift entire narratives simply by refusing to conform to fear. Even your smallest acts of bravery ripple farther than you think, leaving a toxic pattern. Starting again. Confronting something within yourself that's been festering in silence. These aren't minor moments. They are thresholds. Each time you cross one, the world becomes a little more honest, a little more awake. Your courage gives others permission to try again, to break cycles, to speak. This isn't about becoming a hero. It's about becoming whole. About living in a way that refuses to betray your truth just to fit into someone else's version of peace. Your courage isn't a performance, it's a presence. One that holds its ground even when the ground shakes. One that walks in shadow without forgetting the light it carries. Let it keep leading. Let it keep cutting through the noise. Let it become the sword that clears space for something higher to emerge.